Hi everyone, welcome to On the Other Hand. I'm Ariane Zurcher, and in this video I am continuing on the sixth sphere of my Suspended World series. It's the sixth one of 7, so I'm almost, I'm closer to the end than the beginning. And I take you on a little walk through Central Park. In this video, I am really struggling with an idea. And when I started these videos, one of the things that really was important to me was to be honest about the process, making mistakes and showing that on camera, not editing out every little thing that wasn't perfect. Because I really wanted to have people see that the process is often messy and it isn't perfect and it isn't edited. The process is making mistakes or doing things that later I think back and want to do and decide I'm going to do differently, or taking things out. Part of the process is also just the kind of mundane, daily showing up and doing something, and that can get boring to visit, for a video, especially one that's fairly short. So that I will edit out just to sort of speed things along. But I think sometimes we see videos and we think that something is so much easier than it actually is. Or we'll see someone doing something and we forget that they've spent thousands of hours doing this thing that they're now showing how to do. And then we look at it and then we try to replicate what they're doing and then feel like we're not very good at that because it didn't come out the way theirs did. But we're completely forgetting the fact that this person has spent thousands of hours practicing so that they could get to the point where they could have a video and show this process and how it all just kind of unfolds flawlessly. What I'm doing with these sculptural spheres is I'd never made a sculpture before. I'd never worked with wire before. So there's this balance of a desire to show the process, but also to not have it be so incredibly mundane and boring, and that just wouldn't work, while also keeping the integrity of the process in place. Which is to say, there are so many hours that you don't see. What you're seeing is a sped up process. And in the process, there's also often a lot of emotion that comes up, feelings. And what I have found more and more is that if I can stay focused and not give a lot of energy to the various feelings that come and go, just like weather, I think of it as the clouds of my mind. Some days are stormier than others. Some days there's just beautiful, brilliant sunshine. Some days it's just dark and gray and everything feels like a slog. If I can just not give a lot of energy to all of that and stay focused, it doesn't make it go any easier necessarily or quicker, but it does help remind me that the various feelings of whether it's doubt or I don't know what I'm doing, which is pretty much all the time, or any of the other things that kind of come up, that all of that is just stuff. It doesn't make a difference. I'm still going to come in here. I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to do something, whatever that is. It may not be what I've wanted. It may not be what I envisioned. It may not be what I set out or thought I was going to do. But what's more important is just getting in here and doing something. This is my process. Everybody's got a different way to go. Some people find it, and sometimes I do too, find it helpful to just go for a walk or go do something else. Or, for me, it's like go bake a cake, which I'll show also the cake, which, by the way, that cake, I made this nectarine raspberry icebox cake. I think it was a recipe in the New York Times, and I didn't like it. I did not like the way it came out. I didn't like the taste. I don't like lady fingers, which is what they used. I didn't like the sugary wine syrup that you dip the ladyfingers in. I didn't like how thick the nectarines, they told you to slice them in half-inch slices. That's really pretty thick. I like them much thinner. I'll show you the cake. So I made the cake as the recipe said, and then I just completely went off script and I remade it. I deconstructed it. I took it all apart. I saved all the fruit and I stewed the fruit, the raspberries and the white nectarines together with some sugar and I thickened and I cooked it until it was thick, and then I put that aside, and then I made a whipped cream, but I added like mascarpone and some cream cheese, and then I folded that all in to the now cooled fruit, and then I made the layers, but I used vanilla Oreo cookie thins, and I couldn't find enough of the thins, so what I did was I took regular Oreo cookies and I just took them apart and used just one of the sides and scraped the middle part out because it's pretty sweet. And I did like layers and it turned out amazing. And I'll show a photo. Of course, I forgot to show the whole cake before we'd started eating it. But the biggest compliment was my girlfriend Mary, whom all of you met when I took you guys to the beach with us. She is married to a man who was a really, really amazing chef. I mean, it's his profession. This is what he does. He has a catering company. And I gave her a big piece to take home for her family. And he texted me and said that he loved it. And I was just thrilled. I mean, it's like the highest compliment to get from a chef, especially because I made up the recipe, basically. I mean, it was completely off. I went completely off book. So segued over to that because sometimes when I'm in here and I'm just feeling frustrated, and I try not to give that frustration a lot of energy and just stay focused on the task at hand, but sometimes it just feels impossible. Like I'm just not able to continue. And so I'll go and bake a cake or go for a walk with my husband or go to some art galleries and it doesn't necessarily mean I come back and it's any easier. It just means that I've given myself the space to have those feelings and not get pulled into the dark vortex of them, I think that's the point, is to have feelings, but just not give them a lot of energy. One other thing that I discuss in this video is I show you the process that I'm doing, trying to rust some of the different metals that I have. So I have some chicken wire that has no rust on it, and I'm trying to apply a solution of hydrogen peroxide, white vinegar, and some salt and see if I can rust it. Yeah, so I'll turn you around and I'll show you what I'm up to. I have this old dish towel and I was just going to shred it up, and then I thought, it'd be kind of cool to use this, put the rust when I get some like that, especially that grid or the chicken wire, stick it on here and do the rust on top of it and then stitch on top of that. That could be really, really cool. The other thought I had was to take some of this ice-dyed stuff that I didn't love, and I was thinking this would be great for rusting. This is a piece of raw silk. I think I ice-dyed. I don't know what I did with this, but in any case, that would be kind of cool to put some rust on there. It hasn't really changed color yet at the bottom, the grid, the screen, and I'm not sure why. One of the questions I have about this is, could I just take a piece of metal like this screen that I'm not seeing any rust on and take a solution of vinegar and hydrogen peroxide and salt and spray it on it with the fabric and spray it on, lay it on here, and then wrap the whole thing up. And will that, even if the metal isn't rusty before I apply it, could I apply it on here and it would rust? Would that be part of the rusting process? That's the question I have. But if any of you know, tell me in the comments. I'd love to know if that's true, because then I wouldn't bother with all this. So I did what I said I was going to do. I sprayed this with water. I made it a little bit more malleable, and then I attached a lightweight fusible on it. And then I went around with a colored pen and just filled in, this is a hole. And, I kind of like the way it looks. Now, whether I'm able to do anything with this, who knows? I probably should have left a little edge so that I could stitch it down. I didn't even think of that. So that's that. And then I did the same with this. And when you heat it up, it actually becomes a little bit more malleable. So, although it's breaking now, but water didn't affect it, heat affected it. So I thought that was interesting. Now, whether I'm able to do anything, again, who knows? I probably should have left a little edge around here too that I could then stitch, and I could color it so it's all one, but then I'd have an edge to stitch, and then this would sort of stick up. I may do that. I may do another piece of fusible around this, leaving a tiny little edge, like, 1/8 of an inch, somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch, and do that with this one too. And then I can go in with a colored pencil, the same color as the background, the brown and this kind of green. But at least that would allow me to stitch into it without messing with it, because it just is so fragile. So we'll see. I'll play with that idea. In this wintertime, it's Woolman Rink, which is an ice skating rink. And then they used to do Victoria Gardens, which was all these rides, for kids. And it was very popular. Daughter loved it. So I've never seen the pickleball here before. It's I think, fairly new.
That's a beautiful place.
你看这个水域感觉到危险了，察觉到我们的这种散发的这一种，你看飞快的往这个湖中心在跑。感觉到人类。其他的都没有跑，就他跑了。佢肯定係 feel 到啦，知唔知啊？你睇其他嗰啲都冇走。
This bark, which I picked up while walking, is very fragile. I think it must have been wet or damp when I picked it up, because it was not so fragile as it is now. I tried to poke a needle in this to just see what would happen, so that if I tried to stitch in it, but it just cracks. It completely cracks. So that's not going to work. I thought about the possibility of backing this with a fusible and wetting it, backing it with the fusible, and seeing what happens with that. The paint, which I also had high hopes for, is also very fragile, and it cracks the minute I try to do anything with it. So, like, just there, and it's completely ripped from here to here. So again, I'm going to have to rethink that, because this is not going to work. The I thought it was much more malleable. It must have been damp. So again, I could try to back this, but it's unfortunate because I was really excited by this. Moving on. I'm just kind of pressing ahead because I'm just in that place of just feeling, I never know what I'm doing, but I feel like I particularly like a special amount of I don't know what I'm doing with this for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to analyze it. But having said that, I decided that what I would do is just cut up some scraps of stuff. So I talked about the paint. It's not working. I then backed it with some fusible, added a little edge so I could stitch in and around it. See how that works. If it works, then maybe I'll do the bigger strip. I don't know. So then I went through my pile of stuff and just started pulling scraps. And I thought what I would do is start cutting these up and just start stitching bits together. So yeah, not with any kind of rhyme or reason, just when I'm feeling this kind of this degree of I don't know, it helps me to just move away from the sphere itself and just start doing something that I might put on it. And so that's what I'm kind of thinking at this point, just doing some sort of patchwork kind of thing here and see what happens, because otherwise you just feel paralyzed. And so when you're feeling paralyzed, anything is better than nothing. And that's the rule of thumb for me, is what's the next simplest, easiest thing I could do. And if I can't figure that out, which I haven't been able to, trust me, I say that every morning. What's the next easiest thing? I don't know. Then just start doing something else. It doesn't have to be easy, or it can just be something. Okay, so I've got like a little something here. And I think I'm just going to start with that. It doesn't have to be, I don't know, I kind of want to do something with this yellow. It's calling to me, this yellow. It's crying out, use me. Okay, fine. I don't know, I think it needs to be a smaller bit here. So that's okay. I will, I'm going to cut this up. The point is to engage your mind and hands in something. And the minute I start saying, well, how's that going to work? That's when I say it doesn't matter. Because the point isn't to make some sort of fabulous thing here that's going to go on the sphere. The thing is to just engage my hands and body and mind in creating something, in doing whatever, and it doesn't matter. It just has to be something. And then from there I can start to move into something else. I hope that makes sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. but that doesn't mean it's going to make sense to you. So let's see, maybe this, and maybe this gets frayed a bit. And once I have just a few things here down, then I'm going to either take a picture or pin it or something, and then I can pull out some threads and just start doing a kind of slow, mindless, I say mindless. I don't mean that I'm not thinking when I'm stitching, but when I'm in that kind of flow, it's a different thinking. It's everything kind of slows down. I'm not necessarily trying to solve a problem. When I'm in problem-solving mode, which is what I've kind of feel like I've been in with this sphere, for some reason, it's not. I know I want it open at the top. I know I want it to have the chimes inside. I know I want something, well, I think I want something growing out of it and coming out the center, moving upwards, reaching up. But beyond that, I don't know. I think the danger comes in overthinking, trying to have it all figured out before I've even started. That can be its own kind of danger. Kind of like this long fringy bit. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to pin this. Okay. So there, I've got that. And I'll start stitching. I'll start, doing a little stitching. I found all my thread. I thought I'd lost it. I love this stuff, but it's not easy to work with. It's really a gimp. It's a silk gimp. But isn't it pretty? As I recall, it's hard to stitch with, but maybe I'm thinking of the boucle. It's this one that's hard to stitch with. It unravels. It really needs to be couched. But I love these colors. Okay, I'm getting, that's a cool color too. Distracted. All right, let me start stitching and see what happens. Let the magic happen. Let's pray for some magic. I am just doing a little running stitch along the edge to just kind of get this down before I start to do anything else. I just want to get this, I want to get it so I can remove the pins. That's really the point here. I don't know if you can hear the noise from upstairs. They have, they're very cute. It's a young couple, well, younger than me. They've got little kids, 2 little boys, and they've got, well, when they moved in, she was pregnant with their little girl, and the boys' bedrooms are directly overhead, and they are boisterous, and and it's but they're very, very sweet. It's a really, really lovely family. We had some people over, and they said, "Is that coming from upstairs?" And I said, "Yeah." But this is part of city living. Don't live in a city if you're not going to be able to cope with noise from neighbors and the street, and we've got the fire department, and that's all part of it. It's all part of the deal. We've got a kids' playground outside of our outside of our bedroom window, so you can hear the kids down below screaming. And sometimes they have parties, and they hire musicians, and there's and that's part of the deal. And you learn to, you either enjoy it, which we do, mostly enjoy it. Can I ever think? I guess sometimes they've hired these musicians that play kids music over and over and over, and that I do start to, but usually it's like, it's kids, so they're never more than an hour. You can put up with anything for an hour. And I do get certain songs stuck in my head sometimes. Kids, Wheels on the Bus kind of thing. Itsy Bitsy Spider, that's one that really gets stuck in my head. But I do like hearing kids playing, and you get the crying too. But it's all part of it, all part of the deal. The one thing I really do get upset about, I try not to, let things ruffle me, because, I mean, is this within my control kind of thing? The noise of the city, no, and I love my city, and, I don't want to live anywhere else. It's all part of that, so that's fine. But what I don't like, and part of it is because I really hate going to the gym. So to go to the gym, I have to really amp myself up in the first place. And then I get there and I get on, I can't do the running, I can't run anymore because it's hard on my knees, and so I do, for aerobics, I'll do the elliptical, and someone gets on the machine next to me, and it's, they're close, they're not far apart, they're jammed together, so you're basically 5 inches from the person next to you working out, and they're on the phone having, a business call or whatever. I don't even care. And I've got my music turned up full blast and I can still hear it. And that really makes me upset. I do not like that. So this particular time I confronted the guy and said, could you the first phone call I didn't say anything. I just thought, okay, he's on the, sometimes emergencies happen, whatever. You have to take a call. You don't want to stop. It's going to be short. It's going to be short. But it went on for a while, and then that phone call ended, and I thought, okay, fair enough. We weathered it, got through it, we're good. Well, then he gets another call, and at that point I said, and then he gets a third call. That was, so 3 calls. And that was when I finally said something. And I said to him, I've got my music turned up full blast and I can still hear you. And he starts telling me why it's perfectly okay for him to be on the phone call. And I was not kind. I was not neutral. I was like, I shouldn't even have to ask you, the cell phones aren't even, you're not supposed to be on the phone at all. And so then, so anyway, he got off, and that was, and I did go to the manager, and I said, this is not cool. And the manager basically said, oh, I know, you're not the only one. It's gotten really bad. But kind of didn't say, we're going to do anything about it. And that upset me. So then the next day I go to the gym and I go upstairs because there's upstairs machines, right? And I'm thinking, and my husband's like, go upstairs, it'll be better. So I think, okay, fair enough. I can take suggestions. So I go upstairs, and this woman starts talking on the phone, and she goes on, and there's a guy next to her, and he's giving her the look, and I'm looking at, and she's just having the time of her life, man. She is just chat. And I finally said, this is not your office. And she said, well, you could ask more nicely. And I said, I shouldn't have to ask at all. And she starts arguing with me, and so I just got off the machine, went downstairs, told the manager, and said, you got to do something. I'm ready to end my membership. And I really was. So he goes up and he deals with it. But I didn't go back to the gym for weeks, 3 weeks maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I hate going to the gym anyway. So it's not it took much to give me a reason not to go. But I need to go because I've got well, now not so much osteoporosis anymore because I've been doing a lot of stuff, but I've got, I need to go. I need to be doing weightlifting, and I need to be getting whatever. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So I went this morning, and this is why this is hard. Do you see what's happening here? It gets, I don't know, it gets all messed up. I went this morning, ran into my friend, so that was nice. And nobody was on their phone, so that was awesome. I just don't understand this need to like be on your phone. It's like, it reminded me of when I was hiking in Peru, and I went up to Choqquequirao, which is this old ruin that is actually more vast than Machu Picchu, but it's very hard to get to. It's a very difficult hike, and it takes several days. They're now making a cable car or something, which I'm just so glad I was able to get up there before they ruined it, because, well, in my opinion, I mean, it'll be much more accessible to many more people, but when I was there was no one there. It was just absolutely gorgeous. And in any case, when I was hiking, and I was with a guide, and you can't, I mean, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have found it without a guide. And these guys, this group of young guys, were all together, and they've got like a boom box, and they're playing music really loud. And I'm thinking, dude, you're up in the wilderness, man. Like, what is that? It just seems so bizarre that you would want, like, I'm hiking. I love hiking. It's one of my favorite things to do. But I'm part of the joy of hiking is being out in the wilderness and hearing the birds and seeing the wildlife and hearing the water running in the little creeks and hearing the trees rustle and the leaves of the trees, and like just being in nature and hearing the sounds. I don't want to go out into wilderness where you're hiking for days and be listening to like someone's favorite choice in music. I found it absolutely astonishing. Anyway, those guys were actually really they were really lovely people. They just liked music, but they were all together. And when I came back to the bay, to the trailhead, having gone up to Choqquequirao and then come back down, it's not, like I said, it's a difficult hike. It's not easy, and I'm carrying a pack and the whole bit. In any case, they all applauded. Which was really very sweet. I also thought, well, I'm not that old, but they were all cheering me on. It was very cute. All right, so I'm just gonna keep doing this, and then after I've done everything so that I can pull all the pins out, then I might come in with other colors, do some stitching and add stuff. I don't know. We'll see. The point is, do something, do anything. Just do it. And then that gives you, and maybe I won't use this for the sphere. Maybe I'll decide this isn't, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm just thinking about getting the pins out of here and dealing with this little mess of tangled thread that I've got going. But, this thread is not the boss of me, so I am not going to let it, I'm not letting it, well, I'm going to have to let it bum me out a little bit. I'm going to have to end it and start anew, but I'm not going to let it make me stop. I think I'll just go down here. And then I think I'll end this because I'm getting into these knots of blue and stuff, which I'm not. It's not calling to me. what it's saying to me is end the thread, move on, do something else. Okay. So this thread probably should be cut at a shorter length, just to keep it. Maybe I'll use, no. See, and I have this one too, which I kind of love. No, I'm going to keep it simple. Don't get distracted, Ariane. Don't let things, that's the thing I get. Ooh, look at this thread. I could use this. See, this is all the rust. Because I was diving into that little rust stew of mine to see what was going on. And of course I got rust on me. And I don't know what the ratio is. Like I just dumped in whatever I had of the white vinegar, and then I dumped in whatever I had of the hydrogen peroxide, and then I dumped in whatever I had of the salt, and that was that. It wasn't very scientific. I think someone said like half vinegar, half hydrogen peroxide. I don't remember. I can't remember this stuff. My husband and I have like this running joke about, he'll say to me, so, he'll ask me a question. I'll say, babe, I did just tell you about this. And he's like, and you expected me to remember? It's like, yeah, good point. What was I thinking? Okay, I'm going to do this. It's good to be able to laugh about these things that are a direct result of getting older. I guess it helps too that we're both forgetting. I just can't remember things at all. If I don't write, so I'll go into the other room and I'll very purposefully, and I will then stand there and I will have no idea what I was thinking and why I'm in this other room suddenly. So I'm not going to really worry about any of this. And there's like a hole here because it's not, that's okay. I'm going to end this here. And then I'm going to decide what I'm doing next, because maybe I'll add something else. Or not, I don't know. So as you can see, the sphere is, I keep saying the sphere is not the boss of me, but having said that, I am struggling with it, and I'm not going to get too focused on the struggle, because that's not going to help me push through. I know I can trust the process. I guess that's really the key here, is trusting the process. Trusting that whatever happens, by just showing up and doing, whether it's putting together scraps or knitting a little swatch of something, or working on, embedding a mirror or some of the sea glass, or figuring out different ways to include different materials that I want to include in this. By doing those things, I know I will get to a place where this starts to make some sort of sense to me, and I have a path. Right now, I feel like I'm in just a massive field, and I'm looking for the trail, and I can't. There's no trail. I can't find the trail, and so I'm kind of bushwhacking, and that's okay. For those of you who don't hike, that metaphor is probably lost on you, but it makes perfect sense to me. And I guess the theme of this video really is about, well, trusting the process for sure, trusting the process, but also not giving energy to the fleeting and often flickering and ever-changing emotions that come with creating. Not giving them a lot of weight. Just, it's fine for me to acknowledge them, but I don't have to pay a lot of attention to them. I can just say, oh, yeah, I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling, whatever. I'm feeling listless. I'm feeling I don't have a direction with this. And that's all fine. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling this sphere yet. I don't have a sense of it. I have a very good sense of where I want to go and the things I want to incorporate in it. And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe there's just too much, but it's okay. The important thing is to show up. For me, the important thing is to show up, trust the process, and just trust that I'm going to figure this out. It's going to be fine. And just keep going. And I think that's something that I also bring into life. There are things in life that seem, that can be just incredibly difficult. And if I can just remember, trust the process. Also, others have been through this. Other people, whatever it is that I'm feeling, other people have been through this exact feeling. And we continue to plug along. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if this resonated at all. And until next time, let's just keep creating.